All right, welcome into another Auburn Live show. Appreciate everybody for joining us. This is the Modcast edition. As we always do, I am Justin Hokanson. With me from auburnlive.com, the team that makes it run, Jeffrey, Lee, and Cole Pinkston. What's up, guys? How are you doing?
What's up? What's up?
How about you, Hope?
Man, making it. Ready for another big football weekend.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
College Station. Man, I hate I'm not making that trip. That's been a fun trip in the past. I still remember the 13 game was one of the most fun atmospheres games like I've been to, man. It was partly because the game was so back and forth and crazy.
You mean the Sammy Coach stiff arm?
Oh yeah.
Can we call it that now? Because that's my favorite part.
I think so. Trey Mason was unbelievable. Sammy also had that screen pass, so when he caught that screen and took it to the house, I was in that end zone. I was like the only one in that end zone. And like he runs up and he is 2 feet in front of me. So when you watch it on TV, like he runs up and that dude that's like, he was running, man. That was a great play.
It was.
All right, let's do some recruiting first. We'll kind of mix it up and then we'll talk Auburn, Texas A&M. Appreciate everybody joining us. Go to auburnlive.com and subscribe if you aren't already a subscriber. That would be awesome. If you could be a part of our community. All right. So let's talk recruiting first, mainly basketball recruiting. Let's kick off with that because Auburn's had a big commitment in Chance Westry since we last spoke. And then, of course, Jairus Walker has now announced his decision. At the time of us recording this, he hasn't announced, but we have a pretty good idea of what's going to happen. So let's have some kind of reaction to basketball recruiting, Jeffrey, on kind of where they stand. You can start wherever you want, man. You can start with Chance or Jarace, what you think is going to happen there. Or, I know you've got a bunch in the hoop scoots, but you fill people in sort of on what's going on.
Well, Nick's. So you got to think Auburn's top two targets in this class at least appeared to be, combo guard Nick Smith from Arkansas, and then Jairus Walker, the forward from he's originally from Pennsylvania, but he's down at IMG Academy. Both of those guys visited Auburn twice. They were very high on the board, and Auburn has missed out on both of them now that Walker has committed to Houston. So, how big of a deal is the Nick Smith? Well, you turn around and you get Chance Westry, and I think both of those guys were ranked very tight in the On3 consensus. So you don't really miss out on much. You might have missed out on your top target, but your number two, your backup plan was, just as good, man. So kind of tells you what where Auburn is in recruiting and how well they can do, even if they miss out on their top guys. Now, the Jairus Walker, in my opinion, was the top guy on the board. Bruce Pearl wanted Jairus Walker. He wanted Jairus Walker to come in after Jabari Smith leaves this year and kind of help out in that void. But the problem with Walker is a Sampson out at Houston, man. Walker is all about relationships. He has been throughout this recruiting process. And so when he had a really good had the best relationship with Sampson of anybody. Bruce was in there. Wes Flanagan was in there. Ira was in there. Steven was in there. But when it come down to it, he just had the best relationship with Sampson. So he's committed to Houston. So what will Auburn do now? Looks like they'll sign Trey Donaldson, 4-star point guard from from FSU school in Tallahassee. They'll sign with Chance Westry. I think he's a consensus 5-star out of Arizona. He's now transferred to Compass Prep out there. Sign those two guys on Wednesday. Will they sign anybody else? It doesn't appear so. I wouldn't completely rule it out, but I'd say 95% chance that Auburn signs Chance Westry to sign Trey Donaldson. Then they look to either the transfer portal or the regular signing period in April to add anybody else. They don't have a lot of slots to fill, so it'll probably just kind of fill it out on what they need. I think, not getting Walker, they kind of want a big guy to step in, whether they get it transfer portal. But two guys to keep an eye on. I know Auburn's going to continue to recruit both of these guys as on 3 consensus. I think he's a 5-star. Kamari Lands, big forward. And then Lamar Washington, who's kind of a combo guard, dual sport guy, plays football too. So they're recruiting both of those guys. And from what I've been told, neither one will sign in the early period. Both will wait till the late period, the regular period. So there's at least some guys to keep an eye on. Auburn's definitely in contention for both. So I'll be tracking those two guys. I'm sure there's some new guys will come in, and then of course the transfer portal for any bigs.
Yeah, I was looking. And you got Washington is a football basketball combo. That would be funny to see him.
I think he's much more basketball. He's got some legit interest in basketball. Football, not so much.
Not as much as Trey. Right.
Right. Yeah, and now I think both of them will end up playing basketball. I think we've talked about Trey before. He's going to play both, at least initially. But I really feel like he'll be a basketball guy.
Well, that's it's certainly a bummer to lose out on Nick Smith and Jairus Walker.
Yeah.
If you're Auburn, yes, you land Trey Donaldson, who I think is a good fit, and Chance Westry, who might be a bigger Samir Dowdy, defense and stuff. But if you're Auburn right now, you had those 3 fantastic seasons. You had a down year last year, but you still had Sharif go pro, JT Thor go pro, so you didn't really lose any momentum for having a bad year last year because you got Okoro, you got Chuma, you got Jabari in there. But I do wonder if Pearl's a little, I wonder if he's a little frustrated at losing Nick Smith and Jairus Walker. Because you look around, Arkansas is loading up, Alabama's loading up, Kentucky, of course, is. And Auburn's still getting good players, but they weren't the number one target. And I think that's Pearl's in it to get the number one target, especially Jarace. You said it. He really wanted Jarace. They're not in a terrible position. So Jalen Williams probably starts next year in that role, in that position, that 3, whatever, that kind of player. But it's interesting that you say that they may not go after anybody else. And I guess that's just where the transfer portal comes into play. He's going to be more picky, knowing that, his style. I wrote about those 4 transfers, but you heard Wendell Green in that story on auburnlive.com talk about, hey, if you come in, there's going to be 10, 11 guys that can play ball. And so, maybe he leans on that, knowing he can go get a guy and say, look, he can go get somebody in the transfer portal pretty good, probably saying, look, we play 10 guys. You can come in and play. Yeah. I guess that affects recruiting.
Well, let's don't downplay Trey Donaldson. If you were to ask me 2 months ago who were the top 3 targets on the board, it would have been Trey Donaldson. It would have been Jairus Walker. It would have been Nick Smith, and it would have been Trey Donaldson. Trey is the point guard Bruce wanted in this class, so he got one of his 3 top targets. And then, like I said before, if Chance Westry is your fallback, is your backup plan, man, you're doing something right. Right. Yeah. Auburn could have had him at any point. He wanted to come to Auburn. They were slow playing him. Let's see what Nick Smith does. Nick Smith committed to Arkansas. Auburn brought Chance back in for an official visit last weekend, and he went home, and 3 hours later he committed to Auburn. That's kind of how the pool. It's not like we talk about momentum, and you drop Nick Smith or you lose Nick Smith, and you turn around and you've got Chance Westry knocking on your door saying, "Can I come in?" Yeah.
Yeah. What's funny is I find myself when it comes to basketball recruiting, you almost have to stop and take a step back and go, hold on, think about what we're talking about. Here we are talking about, man, but they're bummed they don't get Jairus Walker, but they got Chance Westry, and you almost have to stop and go, but hold on. Think about Auburn missed on Jairus Walker, and so what did they do? They went out and got a consensus 5-star Chance Westry. We're talking about basketball recruiting. So on one hand, I take a step back and kind of keep things in a perspective of what Auburn basketball used to be, and just how insane this world we're living in now. I don't think I ever thought we would be having these discussions about Auburn basketball and recruiting, and it's pretty awesome. But at the same time, I think we can shift our expectations to holding them to a higher standard, Pearl, in the way they recruit, right? I think it's fair we can have perspective and say, well, we're just happy they're looking at us, or but I think Pearl would hold himself to a higher standard too. Hey, they should have gotten that guy, or they need to start getting some of these guys. I think it's a balance, I guess.
Yeah, I was looking at Kamari Lands. We talk about Chance Westry. I think let me pull this up. Chance Westry is the consensus number 30 overall player in the class, 5-star guy, the number 7 combo guard. And then you've got Kamari Lands, who really is in a similar situation as Chance Westry in that he's really high on Auburn. Auburn's kind of holding him off to see what happens with Jairus Walker. Now that Jairus Walker's gone to Houston, Auburn's not. They're not running to go. Okay, hey, we're ready. They can chill and take this guy later. I mean, we're talking about the number 24 overall player in the consensus on 3 rankings, 5-star guy that Auburn's saying, hey, we'll check. And Bruce's evaluations of these kids a lot of times are very different. You saw the number 10 player in the country, Zion Cruz. Oh, he wanted to come to Auburn so badly.
Right.
And Bruce was like, no, I mean, you're not the number 10 overall player in the country in my mind. You're not the fit that we're looking for. So they pass on him. They passed on the number 10 guy in the country. Now they're telling the number 30 guy, hold on, let me wait and see what happens with Nick Smith. Okay, he's gone. Okay, now you can come number 30 overall player. How about the number 24 Kamari Lands? Auburn saying, hey, let's wait and see what happens, and then we'll make a push for you if we get to you. So that's kind of the reality of what Auburn's basketball recruiting is. I mean, can you imagine 10 years ago, Kovotny Barber, when he signed with Auburn, it was the biggest deal, of my lifetime. Auburn recruiting, it was huge. And now it's like he would be like number 3 or 4 on the board right now.
Yeah.
So the expectations are certainly Auburn fans have gotten spoiled almost when and right, I guess rightly so. But when you're turning down the number 10 and the number 30 guys are slow playing the number 24 guy, I mean, we're talking about 3 top 30 players in Chance Westry, Kamari Lands, and Zion Cruz that Bruce at one point said, easy, slow down.
Yeah, it's a good point on Zion. I'd almost forgotten about him, honestly. But you had there's a ranking guy that could have been in the class, and it could have looked great. It could have looked great on paper and all that stuff.
Yeah, right, sure.
Yeah. All right, so Auburn's going to have Trey Dallas and Chance Westry. Maybe dip into the transfer portal. Look, you got Jalen Williams coming back. Really, probably just expect to lose Jabari and Walker and Al. Probably, Walker's maybe a tweener. Just depends on the kind of season he has. But Jabari and Al are probably gone.
I agree.
Walker just depends.
I agree. I was told this morning though that they're really only banking on losing Jabari.
Yeah.
I'm not. I don't feel like either one of the other two, Allen. Although I feel like Allen, if he has a good year, what do I know? But in my opinion, he needs to go take advantage of it. Walker, we'll see how he fits into this offense and how well he does. But at least one source at Auburn says we're definitely right now only losing Jabari.
Yeah, I mean it's certainly possible. I mean, I guess the how Flanagan comes back from injury, how he plays, from whatever mid-December on. I think right now he's definitely projected in the draft. But
do they have 11 scholarships right now?
Yeah. Yes. Where they at? Yeah.
So you've got 11. You lose.
There might be a short one because of Desi. Did they? I have to go back and double check now that I'm thinking about it. I wondered if they filled that last slot with Desi.
Well, we know the kid from Auburn who I really like, and I can't even think of his name. That's how much I like him. Yes, he got a scholarship. Now I think that's a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
But let me pull up this roster, Justin. Let's get these numbers because that might help explain what's going on. 221 men's basketball roster. You've got KD, Wendell, Jalen, 3. Jabari Walker, that's 4-5. Zep is taking forever, of course, to pull up because
that site's slow. Man, there's so much going on.
Well, let's just say I don't want to just say it. My God, how long does it take? It's like I'm on AOL. Jeez Louise, man. It's still not pulling up. Dude, my computer runs really slow.
While it's pulling up, I'll say on Flanagan, I just finished my thought on Flanagan is, I would say it's possible. Because Flanagan, look, the way he's developing, man, if he were healthy this year, the way he's developing, I mean, he might have been poised for a top 15, 20 pick, and I'm not sure he's there now. And so I think it's very possible he comes back from injury, has a good year, but maybe he's projected, late first, early early second, something like that. I think it's very possible that he comes back and says, look, Jabari's going to go pro. You come back and be a lock for the first round. I mean, yeah, it's very, very possible.
Finally pulled it up. My dial up finally connected. I've got 11 with not counting Preston Cook. You got KD, Wendell, Jalen, Chris Moore, Jabari, Zepp, Walker, Allen, Stretch, and Devin and Dylan.
Yeah,
that's 11. All right, you lose Jabari, you're down to 10. You bring in Trey and Chance. Now you're up to 12. So you either add a guy late, like we're saying, I add a big late, or you lose another guy and you add another a transfer. So right now they're sitting at 11 scholarships with Jabari likely to go. So that leaves them 3. Now you can have 13 on scholarships. So that leaves them 3 if Jabari goes to take. And then you got Trey and Chance coming in. So that leaves 1 unless someone else leaves. So, but as it stands now, we'll just do that. As it stands now, they've got 1 guy to add either through the portal or through late signing period. And then if Flanagan leaves or if Walker leaves or somebody else leaves, then of course that would be another spot. But right now we're looking at 1 spot with Jabari leaving.
Yeah. So there's room to play with, and you can see why they're kind of approaching it the way they are.
Absolutely. It makes a lot more sense when you look at the numbers and the patience that they're showing.
Yeah. All right, so basketball recruiting looking good. Yeah, missing out on a couple of top targets, but look, they're going big, and in both cases, look, Nick Smith from Arkansas and Jarace was Houston was in on him first, and so tough pulls, pulls either way. All right, let's switch gears to football recruiting real quick, and then we'll get into Auburn and Texas A&M. I know. So, Jeffrey, you'll have the war room out tomorrow. We won't give away everything. I know, Cole, you've had some recruiting insiders this week. We can get Cole in here to talk. I know, Cole, you're super pumped to talk about basketball, I can tell.
I love basketball. I know, like, the first thing you think when you see me is that guy, he's a basketball guy.
Yeah, absolutely. That guy was all state.
Point guard. Yeah. Point guard. Cole, you remember Khalid El-Amin? Or is that before your time?
Yeah, no, I don't know that one.
I think you'd be Khalid El-Amin. He's a baller for UConn. All right, football recruiting. How are things going? I saw did Oregon lose some receiver commits, by the way?
That's pretty much that's been the big story, Cole. You take that Darrius Clemons situation. You know what's going on with the wide receiver recruiting.
What was it? Singleton? Is that one of the guys? Nicholas Singleton. And Isaiah Satania, I think is how you say his name.
Did he go too? They lost 2?
Flipped to Arkansas.
Wow. So they lost 1 to Oklahoma and 1 to Arkansas.
Correct.
Damn, how does Oregon lose receivers like that?
Really, especially the season they're having.
Yeah.
I have a theory on that. I think they're making a play at Darrius Clemons.
You think they backed off or maybe showed these guys the door?
No, I'm not going to go there. I don't think they backed off. I think they wanted both of those guys, but I think they also want Darrius Clemons. So, knowing that they're still recruiting another receiver, having 4 receivers committed, maybe that's what got these other guys looking around. I credit Sam Pittman too and Lincoln Riley for doing what they do consistently in recruiting, and they're going to have a chance to flip people every year anyway. So. That's what happened there. But as far as Darrius Clemons goes, I think Oregon definitely still wants him. I don't think they ever didn't want him. I think they were going to try to make it work even with the numbers they had at receiver. But now, they got some room. So they're going to push for the in-state guy, and we'll see what happens. But, it's hard to count them out with the guy that's right down the road. He's been there plenty of times. He's comfortable there, and this is an interesting development, right, Jeffrey?
I think he went last week to Oregon's demolished Colorado, and then this cat having a big senior year. We saw on Twitter his one-handed snag.
Yes.
I don't know if that's Oregon's going, damn, we got to have this kid. We got to find a way to get this kid in the class. But up until that point, up until last week, felt like Auburn was really making this kid a top target, whereas Oregon may not have been as I'm not going to say as high on him, but Auburn was recruiting him harder than anybody, including Oregon. And I think that's what had everybody thinking that he might be coming. And I think that's why he came to the season opener on his own dime, was probably coming back. If he's still not coming to the Iron Bowl. I don't think this is over by any means, but I feel like what gave Auburn the edge was they were showing him so much more attention. They had made him such more of a high priority than Oregon did. That, Auburn, you're our guy in this class, and Oregon was like, well, you're one of our guys in this class. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's what gave Auburn the edge, at least in my mind. Now this is all shifted. Oregon's now lost 2, according to Cole, and you've got a visit to Oregon last weekend. Do not like the way this one's trending. So, which is, I think we were obviously with that on the hot board. I think things are trending down with him. I think Auburn's now going to push even harder if they can for Antonio Williams out of Dutch Fork, South Carolina, with Mike Bobo leading the charge there.
Yep. I think things are probably trending down for Clemons, not out, but down for sure. And definitely trending up for Antonio Williams out there. I think he's been maybe even neck and neck with Clemons this whole time. You haven't heard as much about him just because he's kind of a quiet guy. He doesn't, he hasn't taken visits as much as other guys have, and he's stayed quiet and doesn't talk much. I mean,
doesn't do interviews.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure his DMs are turned off on Twitter and all that. So he's, he likes it private. That's the way he does it. That's cool. But that's why you don't hear as much about him. And now it seems like out of the blue, but really it isn't. Auburn's been working on him for a while. And Mike Bobo is the lead guy there because he's got that South Carolina area. He was over at South Carolina. He knows that area well. And I think he's doing a great job with Williams, and we should expect Williams to be at Auburn for an official visit, right? What week is that, Jeffrey? Is that happening?
Iron Bowl.
That's right. So, yeah, and if you flipped on the tape of Williams at all, he can go. He's got a lot of speed, probably more speed. Well, they've said that Clemons has clocked at a 4.3. I'm not sure.
Shit.
But that's what it was. I've seen that before somewhere, maybe on Twitter, something like that. But I would give the speed edge to Williams, especially in the open field. He's a guy that makes the catch and then makes moves on people. He's very difficult to wrangle down in the open field. So this is the kind of guy that maybe fits the offense even better than a Darrius Clemons because he's already more advanced as a route runner. He's already he's a punt returner. He's a guy that can do that really well. And Auburn had issues with that last week. So, they might be looking for somebody to fill that role, maybe somebody that's not on the team currently. So I think things are trending heavily, towards Auburn's going to give everything they got at this guy. And we'll see what happens. I think that Iron Bowl visit's going to be make or break for Auburn. You got Ole Miss and South Carolina in the mix as well. But, yeah, I like where Auburn sits right now for sure.
And, it's funny, Justin, how quickly – and don't get me wrong, offensive line remains a huge priority for Auburn. But the concern went from offensive line to the first, 5 games the receivers couldn't catch crap.
Yeah.
And Auburn picked up Drew Bobo. They picked up Eston Harris. And the receivers started catching the ball, but still, it's like receivers and offensive line are absolutely a need. What we found out is Auburn's got Omari Kelly, who has gone silent, but from everything I've been told, is locked in again. There were some concerns with him after Cornelius Williams was fired, but it seems to be back to normal status quo with him. Jay Fair is the big dog in this class right now. He's locked in with Auburn. It looks like Auburn wants either Darrius Clemons or Antonio Williams. Give them one of them, another high school kid. But then they really want an experienced wide receiver to come in. Same situation as Demetrius Robertson a year ago, a guy who can come in and be expected to contribute immediately. Taj Harris, the kid from Syracuse, He actually confirmed to me he's going to Kentucky this weekend, then he's coming to Auburn for an official visit next weekend. So Auburn wants Jay Fair, they want Amari Kelly, they want another high school kid, preferably Darius Clemons or Antonio Williams, and then they want to add an experienced guy like Taj Harris. And getting him on campus next weekend for the Mississippi State game will be big. That would be a huge addition.
Hey, can I ask a question on Clemons? Cole, you mentioned, the Oregon thing.
Yeah.
And I haven't followed it as closely as y'all. Is it potentially a case where because he's from Oregon, they just figured they could slow play him if they want to, and if they need to turn up the heat on him, they can. He's right there in their backyard. He's not going anywhere, and so they get these other guys and they kind of wait and see. Is there any of that involved? Is it a deal where they just figured now we can just turn it on and Auburn's going to lose this kid?
No, I think you're right, and I can't 100% confirm that, but that's the feeling, because that's the reason why Jeffrey and I have stayed away from saying, Clemons is all in on Auburn, even though at one time it looked like Auburn really, really closed the deal with this guy. It really seemed like that after his visit to the first game, the Akron game.
Yeah.
He was.
I even heard a couple of back channels saying, "Oh, he committed." And I'm going,
Sure, yeah, that was floating around there, but that's why we were quick to say, hey, look, there's still some time left in this one. Oregon's still in the picture. Penn State was hanging around too, but really Oregon, because they're right there, and they really never gave up on him. They didn't say, okay, he's out, there's no way we're getting this guy. They said, okay, we're keeping you warm for sure, because we got 4 guys right now. Evidently, they may have known that we didn't know that some of the guys were, liable not to stick, and that's happening now. So if that's the case, or if they decided they liked Clemons better, whatever the case may be, they are making a play at him right now, and he's listening to it. So
I was never sold, Cole, like you said. I don't think he ever got more than 55% on the hot board, like just a slight edge to Auburn. It would have been an incredible, phenomenal pull for Auburn with a new wide receivers coach in the middle of the season to go up to Oregon of all places, and still a kid from Oregon of all places who's in the top 5 right now. It was one of those, I kind of do feel like Auburn has the edge, but if Auburn signs this kid, I'll believe it when I see it.
Right. Yeah, and to add to that too, just throughout the whole process, I thought it was interesting that a guy like Marquarius White was at the Georgia game, and we talked to him afterwards, and he had some things to say, such as I feel like that this is a place that I can see myself, and they continue to recruit me, and so we dug into that some more, and I think there's a chance that there could be another receiver in the class. If it's not him, it could be, we've heard Caleb Webb's name. We've heard
Caleb Webb. Yeah. Forgot all about him.
Name's still circling out there a little bit. So I'm not saying they are going to take 4 high school receivers, because they definitely, if it's not Taj Harris, they're going to go and get somebody out of the portal, just like they did with Robertson. Like you were saying, they got to have some experience coming back, because there's probably going to be some attrition in the wide receiver room currently, if I had to guess. I don't know that for sure, but they're already way ahead of it. We've seen that Auburn's coaches are pretty good at making moves before they happen. They get a good feel of what's going on their roster. So, yeah, I wouldn't rule out Auburn getting 4.
Is White a short guy? Is he 5'9"?
He's about 5'10", 5'11".
Okay, so he's a slot guy.
He's a slot guy. He is another really, really good route runner. He's a guy that caught my eyes. Junior film was fantastic.
Okay.
Very
fast. Chalkville.
Clay Chalkville, yes. And he's got a good quarterback over there too, that's committed to Louisville. So they got a good offense there. But he's the route runner. He's kind of like a Jairus Johnson, or maybe what we thought Jairus Johnson was going to be more like this year. But
yeah,
that type of receiver. And he's got good hands as well. He made a diving one-handed catch. He's got it on his Twitter. You should check it out. I think I posted it on the boards But yeah, he's a playmaker. So that's the guy that they're keeping, an eye on in all of this.
Hey, tell me about this Malik Agbo guy that got a little pub this week on 3, and we saw Damari Alston, in the mix there trying to recruit this kid. I guess he's got an OV to Auburn coming up, but he kind of got a little bit of attention with some stories on 3. What's his story for people that don't know much about Malik Agbo?
Chad Simmons was going up that way. He was, and I said, dude, you need to stop and see this cat, Malik Agbo, out in Frontier Way, Washington.
Yeah.
And he's already been ranked, but if Chad was going to be up that way, I wanted to go check him out. He's coming in next weekend for the Mississippi State game. This dude, he's leaving home. I mean, his top 5 is like Miami, Florida, Auburn. I mean, he's getting out. He's getting out. So that's not an issue with him. But I would say Riley Quick, Malik Agbo, absolutely the top 2 offensive tackle targets in high school right now. And Auburn has been recruiting the crap out of Malik Agbo, and he is absolutely interested. I think when I talk to him on the phone, he's one of those that you can hear and sense the excitement about Auburn. He might talk about other schools like that when other reporters call him, but he is genuinely excited about Auburn. He's genuinely excited to come down here and check it out. Mississippi State. What do we know? What time that kickoff's going to be? Is it
11 a.m.
Oh hell!
That's his official visit, correct?
Yeah, that'll be his official visit.
It works for me, man.
I know, I like it, but for recruiting purposes, you hate to see it. I think there's been one night game, SEC night game.
Then that'll be it. The Iron Bowl will be 2:30. So you're gonna have that Ole Miss atmosphere one time.
It'll be dark though. It'll be dark.
That's true. Third quarter.
Fourth quarter. Yeah. About fourth quarter. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. That's when hunting starts. Yeah, it'll be getting dark. Yeah. But anyway, so Malik Agbo, man, he's legit a high school offensive tackle. Bobo and Harris could play out there, but man, this guy's legit. He's legit tackle.
He is. Yeah, I'm with you, Jeffrey. The first time, we contacted him, it really Auburn was sort of late to the game, and as far as offering him, we're not 100% sure how long they actually recruited him for that. But he was very excited about the Auburn offer, and he had already had all the schools that are left in his top group offered before them, but. Yeah, it seemed like that was one he was waiting on. So they got a chance to make an impression on him now. So we'll see what happens there.
And Riley Quick, is he gonna make it? Is he baseball? I mean, is he gonna make a decision between baseball or football? Is that kind of one of his deals too?
Yeah. And you got to think he's coming back for the Iron Bowl. I don't think it's an official visit, but he'll be back. And he's the one who straight up told me I'm either going to play baseball at Alabama or football at Auburn.
Oh wow.
So that's why I kind of give it. I mean, it's still going to be tough to get this kid, but I think football at Auburn for him is a legit option.
Yeah, that's on his mind. It's definitely on his mind which sport he wants to play, and like we said before, football. It's probably going to be Auburn. And, if he decides to play baseball in college, he's going to stay with Alabama. So. Getting him on campus is number one, right? Because I know he's been talked about or slated to be there a couple times. Whatever.
Has he not been there?
He was there for the Georgia game.
Okay.
Not at the last game, which we were told he was going to be there, but something came up. It wasn't a big deal that he missed, but
Wait, you just say it like nobody saw that.
All right, do people watch this?
Yeah, some people do.
Okay, cool.
You're on here, man. You're on here. They got to see your face, man.
Nah, Jeffrey, don't change, man, because they come to the show for you. I'm telling you.
Yeah. I got my Glacier Park shirt on.
Never change.
Okay, let's leave it at this then. The rest, we'll cover a whole bunch more football recruiting in the War Room. We'll just go to the War Room. It's going to be posted on Friday. Get the rest of kind of what's going on with Auburn football recruiting. That's the high points. And things are definitely in going in the right direction. Auburn keeps winning. Things will be going in the right direction.
Absolutely. Number 21 consensus class right now. 8 consensus 4-stars of the 13. Really like where Auburn is going. I love what this team's doing, and these recruits are noticing it.
Yeah. All right, let's talk Auburn, Texas A&M. Obviously, massive game. Auburn comes in 13 in the college football playoff rankings. A&M comes in at 14. They're the highest ranked two-loss teams. Auburn's the highest ranked, followed by A&M. And then, by the way, gosh, you have Auburn 13, A&M 14. You have, is it Ole Miss 15, Mississippi State 16, Kentucky 17? It's kind of a crazy little grouping right there. But you're looking at Auburn's schedule, going, wow, they think highly of Mississippi State, who Auburn plays next weekend. Obviously, Arkansas and Penn State were ranked when Auburn played them. You played Georgia, they're number 1. You got Alabama, they're number 2. So I tweeted, I was like, so what I'm saying is Auburn plays a hard schedule. But this A&M game, I mean, the thing that comes to mind, man, is last year, look, A&M ran all over Auburn. Ran all over them.
Those guys are back.
Dominated, right? Yeah. Dominated. Well, they rebuilt the offensive line, but running backs are really good. So they're still going to come and pound the rock. Owen Papo mentioned him, McClain, and Wooten playing together a good bit for the first time since the Penn State game against that run-heavy attack. Bo Nix is playing great. Obviously, I have it pulled up here. In conference play, he's second in the league in completion percentage, 67%. Really impressive. Will Rogers from Mississippi State is first at 73%. Zach Calzada from A&M is 56% in conference play. So, A&M's going to try to run the ball. That's what they're going to try to do. Auburn knows that. They've got to contain that, and Auburn has to run the ball on the other side. I kind of think A&M has a little advantage in the trenches in this game, but that's the deal, man. A&M destroyed Auburn last year running the football, and Auburn came close. That great Bo Nix run, they just couldn't seal the deal last year. A&M was the better team, clearly. But what's the vibe? What's the take on this game, Jeffrey? We'll start with you. What are you thinking going into this? It's a big one, man. It's a real big one. It's on three's top game in the country.
Well, probably by default. There's not anything else on that Saturday, but man, I just. Up until this week, I hadn't felt good about this. I marked this down. I think we talked on the podcast last week or the week before. I was like, chalk them up. I'm putting those two down on the L columns, Alabama, Texas A&M. I just don't see Auburn being able to hang with them. I'm not so sure anymore. Now, I'm not. And I still, if you're putting a gun to my head, I'm picking Texas A&M straight up. Yeah. I am. It's there. Bo on the road has not been historically good. I know he's done. He had a really good outing at LSU. He played really well at Arkansas. And I don't. I've watched Texas A&M one time this year. I watched them against Alabama, and so that's all. That's the only perception I have of that team. And they were dominant that game. They were really good. I'm going, okay. That's all I needed to see. That was all I needed to see. Them tear up Alabama. Alabama's defense, all right, it's over. Chalk that one up. Let's see if Auburn can finish 8-4. That's best case scenario. I'm not so sure anymore. Man, I really love what this coaching staff does in the game. I love Mike Bobo. I love the offense. I love the game he called last week against Ole Miss. I love the game he called against Arkansas. Excellent. Man, I think every game Auburn has left on the schedule is winnable, and that's including Alabama game. I really feel that way. Now, do I think they're going to win? Again, put that 38 in my mouth, and I'm saying no. But I absolutely would not be surprised at all if Auburn was to win out. I think they have that capability. Now, you're going to need some help from Alabama. You're going to need some help from A&M. I think turnover is going to be an issue. I think having Alabama at home is going to give Auburn the possibility to win it. But I like A&M at home in a close game.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I'm on the fence. I'm on the fence.
Okay.
Because let me try to ease your mind a little bit, Jeffrey.
All right.
On a few things. I wrote about in the 5 questions. To me, so I look at A&M's roster. And I went back and looked at the game they had against Alabama. Obviously, you want to look at that game to see what they did because they did something right there. Calzada had the game of his life in that game in the second half. but he has not been super consistent. He's thrown 7 interceptions in the last, was it 4 or 5 games, I think. You can see all the talent he has. You can see that it's almost there, but he's still that, he's only started 4 or 5 games, 6 games, and he's still trying to get it all together. So that's the thing that I look at in this game, because Auburn's defense has sort of got some momentum going in. I know it's an away game. I know it's at Kyle Field, College Station, 12th man, all that. I got it. Auburn has won there the last 4 times, by the way. So there's also that. I'm not big on that kind of stuff. I think anything can happen anytime. So I look at, the way the defense is playing right now. I think the pass rush continuously gets better. You add T.D. Moultrie back. Man, did he help a lot last week. You got, you're rotating so many defensive linemen on the interior to help with the run game, keeping guys fresh the whole game. I think you got Burks, Harris, Pegues, Fair, Jairus Walker. All those guys are rotating the whole game. I think that's huge. I think that's why, later in the game, when people need to run the football, they're not really able to. That's why Auburn's been stopping people. And to me, it's interesting. I look at Aniyah Smith, Devon A-Chain, Isaiah Spiller, Jalen Weidermeyer, those guys, ridiculous.
A bunch of playmakers.
My goodness. I mean, does anybody have 4 guys like that? I think the closest, I look at Georgia, and they got the running backs, but none of those guys are super flashy. You got White. He's really good because he runs people over all the time. But, I mean, these guys are flashy, right? They make big plays. They make explosive plays all the time. So I look at
Weidermeyer is going to be a problem, by the way. I mean, let's just go ahead and say that. Like, Auburn has given up some tight ends have had some games against Auburn this year. Let's just go ahead and chalk up, 80 plus yards for Weidermeyer at least.
Yeah, I'm starting him on my fantasy team.
Yeah. He's going to be a problem.
Him and Traylon Burks, 2 first-rounders Auburn gets to see this year. Got to see Burks earlier. But about Weidermeyer, the thing that's so dangerous about him is because they're not necessarily going to scheme him open. They're going to put him in man coverage situations against guys like Roger, guys like Smoke Monday, and they're going to say, okay, good luck defending this guy in a 50-50 situation. We're throwing it up at you. Yeah. Just kind of like what Auburn used to do with Seth Williams. Just throw it up. He's going to win more than 50% of the close man-to-man coverage battles. So
and can I mention something on that? So we saw against Ole Miss, right? They played Puckett down there.
Yep.
And Puckett's out. So that'll be interesting. I'm sure that'll be interesting to see what they do if Knighton's back healthy and starts next to Monday.
Yeah.
Who's the nickel? Is it? Do you bring in your third corner? Because we wondered, why isn't Jalen, Nehemiah, and Roger in the game at the same time? Why isn't Jalen or Nehemiah Pritchett on the slot? Because they're better covered than Puckett. And I figured it was because Ole Miss likes to run the ball, and they wanted to have somebody a little bit better maybe in run support to fill. And A&M's going to run the ball. I just wonder, think about Pritchett if he's lined up against Weidermeyer, if he's in there and he can man up. I don't know. I'm just curious to see with Puckett out who that guy is, because it's not Kaufman, right? It's going to be.
I'll give you another theory. So this is a theory I built from being on the recruiting trail.
All right, I like theories.
The guys that they like, the guys that they're recruiting, are all, their size and frame is always excellent. That's the kind of guys they're going after, whether it's edge guys, linebackers, DBs. You're not going to see them go after many 5'9", 5'10" DBs. Most of the guys are close to 6 foot or over 6 foot.
Mm-hmm.
Who are the 2 guys on Auburn's roster right now who are below 6 foot? That would be Kaufman and Tennyson, right? Those are the guys they don't seem to want to put in there for some reason, especially in these big games like this. I watched them in the Ole Miss game. I said, okay, Knighton went down, Puckett went down. Surely we're about to see Kaufman or Tennyson roll in at nickel.
Yeah.
Oh, they went with Pritchett. He's taller. He's 6 foot, something like that.
Oh, yeah, he's a height.
That's just my theory. I don't know anything as far as why they're not playing, but they are shorter guys and they're worried about these matchup problems. And I promise you, if they're worried about matching up with Weidermeyer, those guys aren't coming in to cover him. It's not going to happen. It's going to be Pritchett, and I think he plays there the whole game. I don't think he even plays corner. I think he plays.
I think it'd be a great look. I think it would be a great move, and let's just see what happens. I mean, put Pritchett in there. Put Pritchett, Jalen, and Roger in there covering people, and and let's, because Watermeyer, you got to do something. He's going to destroy Auburn if you don't have somebody like him that can cover a little bit. I'm sure he'll get caught on a linebacker at times, which is not great. Wooten's probably your best hope, maybe to cover him. But so as dangerous as Watermeyer is, though, it's all about stopping the run. I mean, Auburn's got to they got to contain that run, and they got to figure out how to get the run going, because maybe that's a better matchup for Auburn. I don't know. I mean, that's what they want to do too, right? Auburn wants to do kind of the same. Auburn wants to run, so does A&M. So instead of dealing with this spread, maybe it's not a bad matchup. I think they have the better quarterback right now. Bo Nix, I think clearly is the better quarterback right now. I think Auburn. You have a couple of hot teams, that's for sure. Yeah, A&M and Auburn, they're both extremely confident and hitting their stride, I think. I think Auburn's coming in at a good time and matches up fairly well. It's about the trenches, though. They got demoralized last year. They got embarrassed last year.
If you're somebody who really likes the stats, and I do like the stats, but I like the context within the stats even better.
You need context, yeah.
But if you're looking at the stats of this one, Auburn does technically have the edge. They have the 36th best rushing defense in the country, only allowing 127 yards per game. Texas A&M is 41st in rushing offense. Now, it's significant to me because Auburn was back in the 50s about 3 weeks ago. They are surging up that board right now in the rush defense. The average gets lower and lower every game. Now, like I said earlier, I think it's the rotation on the defensive line. I think Pegues being added in there and actually being really serviceable is huge for Auburn's defensive line. And then you got T.D. Moultrie back, and you just got a lot of good things going for Auburn's defense right now, besides losing Puckett. That one hurts, in my opinion, because he's been really pretty solid, for the defense.
Yeah. Solid's fair.
Yeah, I'm not going to say he's been elite.
Right.
But he's done his job well, and he makes a lot of tackles. And when you're talking about all the playmakers Texas A&M has, even though their numbers don't show, I think they have the 68th overall offense in the country right now. Their numbers don't necessarily scare you, but the talent they have on their offense should scare you, because if you miss tackles on these guys, it's 6. I promise.
Yeah, I think this will be Auburn's. I think it'll be a great test, because this is the best defense they've played since Georgia. Statistically, they're a better defense than Alabama, and points per game, they're better than Auburn. So this is a great opportunity for Auburn's offense. All we heard after Georgia was the drop passes. Well, with so many missed opportunities. Okay, well, you've got your chance now to catch balls, and let's see what you can put together against a really good defense on the road. I think it's a big challenge. If they can't run the ball consistently, do receivers catch passes? The tight ends stay involved. But I do agree, Mike Bobo's put a lot out there, and he's really mixing it up nicely, as good as an Auburn offense has mixed things up in a long time. Think about Gus, man. If Auburn couldn't run the ball under Malzahn, you could hang it up. It would be a beatdown. Auburn's managed to beat LSU when they didn't run the ball that well. They beat Arkansas when they didn't run the ball that well. And the Gus never would have won those games if you're rushing. If Tank's sitting there at 65 yards rushing, no way. Right. So this is a great opportunity, I think it's going to be tough to run the ball, but they've mixed it up well enough that I think that they'll still be able to move the ball and make some things happen. But big challenge. But talking to the players, I can't remember who it was. It was might have been Nick Brahms or somebody who said, hey, we know it's going to be a physical game, or it might have been Tyler Fromm. He said, hey, we know it's going to be physical, but we're ready to bring it. We know we're bringing it, and we know what it's going to be about. And so I like where their head's going to be at, I think, going into this game.
Yeah, you don't run toss sweep more than 5 times a game if you're not ready to be physical. They understand that. That's the mindset now. I'm not saying it wasn't the mindset, but they definitely understand that the more physical team wins.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how much the game changes.
All right. So before we get out of here, predictions, or are we just saying close game?
I don't know about predictions.
Yeah. I'm with you. I mean, I'm sort of similar to the Ole Miss thing. Like, I think it's going to be. I think it could go either way. I feel decent about Auburn's chance, though, even going on the road. I think that they match up pretty well. I look back at last year, that team almost beat A&M. They had an opportunity to beat A&M last year, and that team had no identity. They had no identity, really. And so I think Auburn's defensive line's better. I think A&M's offensive line's a little worse, but they're both going to go at each other. Auburn's got a better quarterback going in. I mean, I think if Auburn plays a solid game, sound game, I think they're right there.
Yeah.
It's just one of those games. Who's going to make the play? Anaya Smith's like a dangerous player. He's got who's going to make the plays? Who's going to make a big play? That's what it's going to come down to.
Yep, I agree. I'm not making a prediction on it. I can't. It's too close to call for me, but I definitely feel good about Auburn's chances. I'll put it that way.
A&M is not man enough to beat Auburn, but they will. I'm trying to double jinx here.
Yeah. I can't. I would. Yeah. I'm with you. I mean, if you put a gun to my head, A&M's at home. But a lot of times you look at the quarterback. I think Auburn's got the better quarterback, and that's a big deal right now. And so I don't know. We'll see. What a massive game if Auburn can get by that. And then you got Mississippi State coming in. That's going to be a top 20 team probably. State plays Arkansas this weekend at Arkansas, so that'll be an interesting game as well. So
that's the one Mississippi State will lose for whatever reason. They show up in the
at Arkansas, probably. They probably will.
Team in the country is Mississippi State, if you ask.
Yeah. All right, go to auburnlive.com, subscribe if you're not a part of the community. It's cranking it out. Be there on Friday. You got the War Room. You got Rob Pate's column, Pate's Perspective. You got, what else do we got going on tomorrow? You'll have this to listen to. We'll do an Asked and Answered. I'm about to pop on the board and start that, so we'll get some questions in there as well. So a lot going on. Appreciate everybody's support at auburnlive.com, and we'll see you next time.